Welcome along, everybody. We are back for bronze action and a week on from when we last left off then, of course, in the Mystery Grand Prix back in Hungary for bronze. That was last week then, but we're now here in Belgium then and looking forward to a fantastic Spa-Francorchamps, as we call it, although my pronunciation is probably typically wrong. But there we are. Right then, we will need to find the stream as well, then get the comments up and everything like that. Welcome along then, everybody then who is racing, who is watching, who is doing anything regarding the stream or the race itself tonight. I'll try and keep that not dodgy, but there we go. There we go then. Good evening. I'm from Gin as well then, in the comment section as well then. Let's see how it's going to fare then for all 20 drivers then lining up on the grid here in Spa tonight then, as we get ourselves loaded in and ready to qualify then, right on the mark as well then. 7:30 on the dot then, of course. If you didn't see silver last night then, of course it was a frantic action, and as well then with some differing conditions as well then. Same for gold in qualifying as well then, as we took to Spa-Francorchamps then for the fourth time. No, not for the fourth time. I think it's about the 10th time. But of course we took the Spa. Then of course with the with gold, silver, and bronze, there was no mystery Grand Prix this week. Then it's going to be definitely Belgium, so we can confirm that in and lock that in. Of course, Netherlands coming up next week as well. Then we'll run through the championship standings then, shall we, as we get ourselves loaded in and ready to go. As we start off then with the driver standings. And Luke leads the way with 155 points, then 20 points ahead of Dan in the Alpine. Dynamo Dan then in P3 still, then 107 points then for the Red Bull driver. Then we'll wait and see how that's going to fare then, how the fight's going to fare then in this qualifying session, and of course into the race itself then afterwards as well. Mushroom has climbed up to P4 then in the Aston Martin. Then he is currently only 11 points away from the podium places in the driver's standings as well. Then Corey then up into P5 after a fantastic run of podiums then for the Williams driver. Then fantastic stuff indeed to see Corey then doing well. Ginner then P6 as well. Then McLaren then had a bit of a difficult time then in the last couple of races. Then can he bounce back then here in Spa tonight? Then both the Hasses then Styles and Mr. Rick then P7 and P8 then in 82 points for Styles, then 77 for Mr. Rick. Then both of the Hasses doing very well indeed. Then Smithy then P9. Unfortunately, Smithy then has been cursed by the Kick Sauber then, because of course he used to be, well, he was in the last couple of seasons challenging then for the top spot then, wasn't he, as well, or top spots in terms of getting himself into the top 3 then for the bronze championship. Then we will wait and see if he can try and do that then in the latter part of the season as well. Then Corey then out on track as well then. Good stuff. But yes, we'll find out then. Smithy then currently P9, then Winnie makes up the top 10 then in the Aston Martin, 62 points for him. We'll run through the constructors very quickly whilst we get ourselves through the out lap, a very long lap indeed, and so I can ramble on for a bit longer. Then Kick Sauber lead the way then with 230 points then for Luke and Smithy. Haas then are doing a fantastic job then in P2, then 159 points for them. Styles and Mr. Luke then storming on then. Of course, they've been very consistent and very careful in this season so far then to try and maximise the points they can get then in the races themselves. Only 10 races done so far then, or 10 including this one, that is, which isn't just yet run. Aston Martin at 1 point behind, 158 points in P3. Then Serious Mushroom and Winnie then doing a fantastic job as well then, and they could, if the results go their way, then they could leapfrog the Haas then up into P2 in the constructors tonight then as well. Then Alpine P4 for Dan and Vintage. Then Williams then in P5. Then McLaren P6. Then Red Bull then in P7. Then Ginger Age's team then Racing Bulls then in P8, with Ferrari and Mercedes then having a battle then for the wooden spoon as it stands at the moment. But there we go then. On to round 10 we go then, as we start off the Belgian qualifying then for bronze as well. Then we'll see how it's going to fare then for the 20 drivers out on track. Then we've got Corey Brennan on a medium compound tyre on his outlet, the first man on track as well then. And we'll see how it's going to fare then as we get ourselves ready to race then, or ready to qualify first, of course, but ready to race afterwards, of course, that is. So Corey then will set ourselves underway then for qualifying. Then let's see what Corey can do then in the Williams on the medium compound tyres. Then, of course, it's a very long lap around here, so don't want to get it too wrong, because if you get it wrong, then you will have a long time trying to get yourself back in the pits. And of course, time is of the essence as well in qualifying then, because you've only got a set amount of time to set your laps as well then. So of course, in most tracks, you can probably get yourself comfortably around 4 times or so, especially in the likes of Austria or something like that, where you've got a very short lap then. But around here, trying to squeeze in 3 runs is very difficult indeed, so it's probably better to just try and get 2 smooth runs in then, as quite a lot of traffic then starting off their laps then at the end of this one. But of course, into the chicane goes the Williams then of Corey Brennan, sorry, goodness me, as we head into sector 2 now as well, then down the hill into the corner of no name momentarily, that is, not this corner, then the next one then, which they've opened up a bit now, haven't they? Because you can see there's the runoff area then on the inside there as well. Then it's a lot more streamlined now, I could say, that corner. Then heading into Pouillon now for the first time then on a flying lap then in this qualifying session. And here comes the Williams then storming through sector 2 then, very nicely done indeed so far then from Corey, keeping it clean and tidy within the track limits as well as we head into the Fania chicane. heading into sector 3 as well momentarily then. And wow, so far so good then for Corey. Then he's kept it within the track limits, then he's gone purple of course, and he's the first man on track then to set a time so far, or will be the first man on track to set a time so far, provided he keeps it valid, that is, as we head through in towards Blanchimont now as well then, to finish off the first flying lap then of the qualifying session. 14 minutes already done and dusted, already left to go in this qualifying session. 4 minutes done and dusted, I should say, goodness me, as we head into the bus stop chicane then to finish off the lap then for Corey. Then let's see what it's going to be then from the Williams. That back end trying to step out then as it goes through the final part of the corner and up to the line. It's a 44.4 for the Williams then to set ourselves underway in qualifying then. Good stuff indeed. Liam, I think Corey's teammate then, is the next out on track then as well. Next man to cross the line then. What's it going to be then from Liam on the soft compound tyres? It's the 44.1 then, puts himself ahead of his teammate for the time being. Of course, Liam is on the soft compound tyres, so that's good stuff indeed. Kamara Racers said, evening all, hello racers, and good luck bronze as well then. Thank you very much for the generous donation as well then, Corey. Not Corey, sorry, Kamaro, as Mr. Elite split the Williams pair then with a 44.3 then, but Dinner then goes faster for the 43.0 then. Fantastic stuff indeed. Lots of drivers then crossing the line very, very soon then. McLaren have then taken the front row with the 44.4 for Astra John, then Hungry Styles P3 then for the time being. DeCanco up into P4, then Liam and Corey then dropping down the order. Unfortunately, then McLaren, the Haas of Mr. Elite is in P6 for the time being. Yes, Kamara Racer, thank you very much for the generous donation as well. Then that is fantastic stuff indeed. And of course, we'll be going back into the league. Then, unfortunately for Sean, it's not going towards any of his dinners or anything like that. As Real Ashton crosses the line for P8, it's not going towards his lunch money or anything like that. It's going into the league, back into the league, I should say. Then, so we'll get that all sorted. Then, thank you very much then for the generous donation there as well. Then from Kamara Racer, €10 as well. Then that's very nice indeed. Dynamo Dan, is coming through Blanchimont now to finish off the lap. Then let's see what he can do. Then we've got Ginger Age who's further behind this. We'll come back to that then because we're going to see what the Red Bull can do first. Then around the bus stop chicane we go. Then keeping it nice and tidy through there as well. Then up to the line. What's it going to be then from Dynamo Dan? It's a 43.5. Puts himself P3 then as well. Then of course Dynamo Dan then challenging for the top of the order then in the driver's standings. Then let's see what he can do tonight. Then both McLaren's looking very strong out there then for the time being. Then Smithy starting off a lap. Then where is Ginger Age? Then we've got ASR then of course, who's now a full-time driver in the Ferrari and has joined us then, unfortunately replacing Casey. I'm not quite sure what Casey's has a problem. I'm not sure if he's just doing something then with work or something like that, but we haven't heard what the extent for Casey's issues are there as well then, but hopefully he is all right. And unfortunately then stepping down then for ASR to jump into the car then, Ginger Age and jumping through into sector 3. Then let's see what the Racing Bull can do then in the first outing for the Racing Bull then in this qualifying session, as McLaren then with a very dodgy in-lap that is. But here comes Ginger Rage then into the final chicane, then up to the line then for Ginger Rage. What's it going to be for him? It's a 44.1, puts himself P7 for the time being. Of course, Ginger Rage got a fantastic, I think it was a P6 last week, sorry. He wasn't racing in silver, although he's had a problem then trying to keep it on the track there at the exit of turn 1 then. So fantastic stuff indeed. Real Ashton is really back in the pits as well then. Good stuff indeed then. Somehow went to the podium, says Brabbit. Then yes, he did. Very good stuff indeed then. Smithy then on a lap then heading into sector 3 then, where is ASR. Unfortunately hasn't validated his time, so he's not going to be improving or setting a time, I don't think, on this lap. Can he go again is the next question then. 10 minutes left of the qualifying session here to set the grid, of course, for the Belgian Grand Prix, which is coming up. Then 22 laps of action then to unfold. Of course, it's a very short number of laps, but of course it's a longer lap overall indeed as well. So I think they all set it to a certain time limit or a certain number of kilometres. Smithy then up into P5 then, so he's got 43.7 then, puts himself ahead of DeCanco for the time being. Liam back out on track then, unfortunately hasn't validated his time again. Then Ginger Age then casually getting himself back into the pit lane as well very soon. Mushroom is out on track then with the medium compound tyres, then heading in towards the into the chicane. I can't remember what it's called now, but there we go, heading into the chicane. There we go then, purple in sector 1 then. That's fantastic stuff indeed for Mushroom, and could be on form then here tonight then here in Spa. Franco Schomps as well then going past a couple of cars, then just getting themselves out of the way then of the flying Aston Martin, then heading into sector 2 then towards the corner of no name. We won't know what it is because we don't have a name for it. But there we go. And now down the hill then towards Bouillon then for the Aston Martin of Mushroom. Then let's see what he can do then. Flying into Sector 3 very shortly indeed then. But he's keeping it all together then very nicely indeed in car number 69. No comment. But there we go then. And now into the Fania chicane as well then. Into Sector 3 momentarily then. Of course he's doing a very good job so far. Into Sector 3 we go now. Let's see what the time is then. 15-1 then for the split time then in Sector 2. Then of course now through Paul Frere. Then heading towards the Blanchimont corner as well then into the bus stop chicane then to finish off the lap then momentarily as well then. So far so good for Mushroom. He is on a storming lap then as well then is the Aston Martin, and he might be getting a nice distant tow then from that Alpine as well, and who I think is about to start a lap then, so maybe that Alpine will get out of the way then very soon. But oh goodness me, that is dodgy stuff indeed, and I'm not quite sure what is going on there, but nonetheless I'll take the Slayers left the session, and Mushroom goes P7 then with a 44 on the dot. Very good stuff indeed. Well done Mushroom. On the dot as well then is very nice. Smithy then into the pit lane after finishing off his in lap as well, then currently P5. Not too shabby indeed then. Where are the Red Bulls then? We've got Dynamo Dan then. Dynamo Dan is out on track then, but he's had a problem there somewhere and he's off the track there, and he's unfortunately not been able to improve then. He seems to be on the wrong side of the track there unfortunately, so maybe had an issue coming out of the bus stop chicane then, but currently stays P3 for the time being then. Mushroom then on the medium compound tyres has done a 44.0. That's pretty good stuff indeed, I think. I wouldn't know, but there we go then. So far so good then. His internet is disconnected, says Jake the Slayer, but he looks like he's back in now then. We've got, oh dear, is that Corey Brennan? Then that is going to be very serious problems then for Serious Mushroom then, who has been unfortunately blocked. They've been blocking Corey Brennan in qualifying there. I'm not sure if that was a block or if that was something else then, or maybe there was maybe he didn't get unsighted then, did Corey, but it looks like he is still going on his lap though, is Corey then, so maybe he didn't get held up too much by the Aston Martin at all. So that's all good then. But there we go then, heading into the heading into the Fania chicane then. We go for Corey Brennan then, still storming along then in this lap then. Oh dear, that back end trying to step out then as he goes through the final part of the chicane, then heading into Paul Frere now, and he is 4/10 up on his previous time, then that would put him into the top 10 as it stands. Of course he might want to find a bit more time then. I'm pretty sure he might have lost a bit of time then to from Mushroom then. I'm not quite sure if he did get him in the way or not, to be fair, but yes, we'll have to wait and see then. Corey then coming through into Blanchimont now, in towards the bus stop chicane then to finish off his second attempt in qualifying here tonight then. He's on the soft compound tyres this time. Let's see what we can do then on the exit of the bus stop chicane. The grip there is on the soft compound tyres as he gets himself to the line. Then it's P5 with a 43.637, then puts himself up from where was it, P11 I think it was, all the way up to the top of the order then into row 3, onto row 3 for the time being then. Very good stuff indeed. Real Ashton then is no, it's not Real Ashton, that's Dynamo Dan coming back to the pit lane. Where is Liam? Liam starting off a lap now as well then on the soft compound tyres, currently P9 for him. Ginger Age is back out on circuit as well, then heading into the corner of no name for the time being. But where is the Haas pair then? There's a Haas of Mr. Elite, unfortunately has invalidated his time then, so where is Styles then? Styles heading into the final couple of corners as well then. His teammate getting out the way then as we go into the bus stop then for the Styles, for the Haas I should say then, heading up to the final corner then, heading up to the line now for Styles then. What's it going to be? It's a 43.0, puts himself P2 onto the front row of the grid then, and a fantastic time indeed. 7,000 away then from Ginner's current time then as well then. Fantastic from Styles on the front row of the grid then as it stands. Brilliant from the Haas driver then, fantastic indeed, splitting the McLaren pair as well then at the moment, that is, because of course we got a couple of McLarens then coming through the final couple of corners here as well then, as Luke's gone fastest with the 42.8 then on his first attempt in qualifying here, and Astra John might have something to say about that, and then Ginner goes fastest then. Astra John stays P4, but he has improved then as well then, just behind Styles then by what was that, 9,000 of a second as well then, so it's getting quite close up top then, as Ginner then has taken back pole position away from Luke then by just under a tenth of a second, just under a half of a second there as well, half of a tenth of a second. Goodness me, I can't get me seconds in whatever times and whatever right. There we go then. Corey then coming back to the P6 room then. Dynamo Dan then is in the pit still as well. P5 for the time being for the Red Bull driver then. Let's see what Liam can do then as we go through. We'll come back to Liam because it's the other Williams then of Corey then coming through into the bus stop chicane. He's coming back into the pit lane then with 5 minutes left of qualifying here. Liam then through Blanchimont then. Let's see what Liam can do then as we head into the final corners then for the Williams driver then. Let's see what it's going to be. Sorry Corey then, my bad camera swap, says Mushroom then. Oh dear, that's speaking of swapping then, Liam is all over the place there as well, coming out of the bus stop. He's improved still on his previous time. That's fantastic. I think he would have found a few more tenths then as well, a few more seconds maybe, even if he can get that in a straight line then, but he still improves then. He's currently P10 for the time being. Then ASR on his debut then, his full-time debut that is, of course, is in P11 for the time being, of course. But if he will see what he can do then. If he can improve, then Real Ashton, I think, has just finished the lap. Then he has improved on his previous time there, but unfortunately not enough to gain himself a spot on in the order, I should say. We've got who have we got next is with the question. Then Ballant then starting off lap, then Ballant reserving in place of Yumabra, I think it is. As we go through, then, oh dear, Vintage are going to be out of shape then in the Alpine, then heading up to the line for Vintage, and it's going to be a 45-4 then for Vintage, and he stays P15, unfortunately then for him. Winnie has, I'm not quite sure what happened to Winnie, because I didn't see if he had an issue somewhere in qualifying, or if he had, if he just retired in the pit lane then for qualifying, but there we are. Ballant then is coming through into the first chicane, then heading into Sector 2 now. He's gone purple in Sector 1, which is looking pretty impressive then for the Mercedes driver. Chazza has said, hello there, and well, you should be saying, why I, pal? Goodness me, what's happened to the roots then as we go through then into back in the pits for Jake the Slayer then. Unfortunately no time on the board just yet then for Jake the Slayer. The same for both the Mercedes pair and for Dan as well. Then of course a championship contender, then he needs to try and get himself in contention with Luke then, who's currently P2, and to try and get himself up the order then as well. Then but unfortunately that he's not going to get a tow from his teammate then, because well, firstly he's on an outlap, and secondly because Vintage is coming back to the pit lane. We've got Sam then, of course, he's coming back in the pits as well then, it looks like then, so he's heading back in then from the Ferrari point of view. Done and dusted on that lap as well, then coming back to the pit lane. I think Real Ashton the same as well, then same for Vintage, although Vintage, I'm not quite sure, Vintage has got some damage there, so maybe that's what's hampered his previous lap time then. He's got some serious wing damage there as well, that has Vintage, so my goodness me, then that could be very difficult, I should say, then for the Alpine driver. Then firstly he needs to get himself back into the pit lane then, but unfortunately I'm not quite sure if he's going to have time to go back round and go back out again then, especially if they got damage to try and fix then, as Ballant then crosses the line P16, sorry for him, for Ballant, then P46 as well then, I should say, goodness me. Dan is on an outlap then, so Dan I think is only going for one run in this qualifying session, unfortunately then. We've got Mr. Elite then back out on track, then heading down the Kemmel Straight then towards Sector 2. We will wait and see then what Mr. Elite can do then on his final attempt. Then I think there's only a few seconds, a few minutes I should say, left in qualifying, and well, of course, being a long lap, then you haven't got much time to get yourself back out and back round. Then, of course, 2.5 minutes left. Then, so we might start to see quite a few drivers then start to pile out the pit lane now, if they want to improve on their current times, that is. But some of them might be happy with where they are. Then we'll have to wait and see. Mushroom is back out on track as well. Then in the Aston Martin, currently P9 for the time being with that 44.0. That was set on medium compound tyres, though. We'll have to wait and see if we can improve further on that as well. Then Real Ashton has retired in the pit lane. So he has called it a day then, has Real Ashton, in this qualifying session, then currently P14 then, and that is that then, as we go through then into Sector 3 momentarily then for Mr. Elite. Then can he get that car under control? Yes, he can. He is not improving on his previous time, that he's set the ERS to none as well here, so unfortunately he's abandoned his time then, has Mr. Elite, unless he was just trying to do 2 outlaps then potentially. Then he's got time to get himself back to the line. Then will he have enough fuel and enough ERS to play with then to start off another lap? Then we'll have to find out though. But well, unfortunately Mr. Elite then some sort of issue then into Sector 3 then has well, it's cost him, but we'll see what he can do then. He gets himself back underway then momentarily. Then Vintage has retired as well then in the pits as well. Unfortunately Vintage didn't think he had enough time to get himself back out and back underway again then, as Mr. Elite then will restart a lap then, as unfortunately then he had an issue then trying to get himself back underway then in that, back underway then after getting himself back into the pit lane, I should say, then for another attempt. Then Rocket Lee is also retired as well then in the pit lane, then as Ballant then starts off another lap. Then the Aston Martin of Mushroom then dives it in. Then unfortunately Mushroom then not improving on the soft compound tyres somehow, and is back in the pit lane then, unfortunately then for Mushroom. Then that is his qualifying done and dusted, then P9 at best then for the Aston Martin. Then DeCanco then is going to start off another lap here as well. Then we've got Corey, I think, starting off a lap. No, he hasn't started off a lap. Is he going to have time to get back round then? I'm not quite sure, as they're on out lap still, as Dan's gone fastest still with a 42.653. I've missed it completely, but fantastic qualifying then from Dan. He's done one and done then for Dan in the Alpine and put himself on pole position as it stands. Fantastic stuff indeed then. Can he hold on to it is the question. Then he is currently a 10th away then from Gino, who's currently P2. Then Luke then has started off a lap as well, then heading down the hill towards Eau Rouge and Radion. But blimey, that was pretty good stuff indeed, especially on one lap there for Dan as well then. So he's looking quite comfortable indeed at the moment. Then, of course, those other drivers then who are trying to rival for that pole position then are also on track now as well. Styles then is... Styles is struggling then. Styles has had an issue somewhere, and He's sort of pulled over then. I'm not quite sure what is going on for Styles. But there we go then. Williams then has gone through. I think hopefully Styles is out of the way then, as Astra John has finished the qualifying as well. Then here's P5 for Astra John then. That is qualifying done and dusted. Then Smithy then P8. Then he's improved slightly then, but gets ahead of Dukanka, who's still on a lap as well. Then heading into Sector 3 momentarily then. Who is next across the line? We've got a Mercedes then coming through. Where is the Mercedes then? It's Ballint as we head into the Blanchimont corner then. He's got all the deployment used then for the Hungarian driver then as we head into the bus stop chicane. Messed it up, says Styles, unfortunately then. So that's unfortunately then he couldn't improve on his final run then, but he's currently on the second row of the grid still, which isn't too shabby indeed. Then here comes Ballint. Then can he improve then on his previous time? Then he can by half a second. Then it's 46.0 sorry for him. Mr. Elite back in the pits, unfortunately hasn't validated this time as well then. So that is him done and dusted in qualifying here. Where is the Ferrari of Dukanka? Then we hear you ask. Then he's coming up to the line. Then he's improved, but he stays P9 for the time being. Ginger Age P13, where is Jake the Slayer? Then Jake the Slayer coming through the bus stop chicane, and Jake the Slayer will go up to, where will it be? P10 then, so up into the top 10 then for Jake the Slayer. Then very good stuff indeed. Then Luke's gone faster still then with a 42.590, then puts himself back on pole position ahead of Dan. Where is Jinner? Then Jinner's invalidated this time, so Jinner's back in the pit lane. Then Dan I think is going back to the pits as well. Then so Luke, I think the championship leader, yes he has. Everyone else is done and dusted in qualifying then, so Luke then takes pole position here in Belgium then with a fantastic final lap then, with a brilliant lap indeed. I couldn't even beat that myself, but there we go then. Nothing new about that then. But Luke then takes pole position here in Belgium then. Of course, the championship leader then looking to extend his championship lead as we head into the race itself then in a few moments time then. But Luke then claims pole position then for the Kick Sauber team. Then fantastic stuff from Luke. Terrible time, says Slayer then. I had one run because of the internet, so I'll take it then as well. But of course, yeah, like I said, Slayer then has got himself a time on the board at least then, which is good stuff indeed. Then P11 to start off the Grand Prix then for the racing ball then. But Luke then takes pole position. Then Dan in P2 then on the front row of the grid, then only a few thousands away then from the Kick Sauber as well. Then we'll run through the classification very shortly and get ourselves underway for the race itself then. There's the classification, then Luke pole position, then Dan then on the front row as well, accompanying him then as we head into turn 1, then Jitter in P3, then Dynamo Dan up into a P4, then on the second row of the grid, then Haas then of Styles, P5 with Astra John then in the McLaren, looking very strong here tonight in row 3. San then on his debut, then in the, full-time debut in the Ferrari, then P7, then Corey P8, then Smithy P9, Dukanko in P10, then Jake the Slayer and Mushroom P11 and 12, then Liam and Ginger Age P14 and 13, then Mr. Elite and Ashton in P16, 15 and 16, then Vintage and Ballint then 17 and 18, unfortunately for Willie and Rocket Lee. No time on the board then. We'll have a quick word from our lovely sponsors then, and we'll be back for some racing action then, so stay tuned. All right, then we get ourselves ready to go for the start of the Grand Prix. Formation lap soon to be underway. We've got Ginner then that did a 42.3 in practice then. Couldn't put it together then in the qualifying tonight. So I think he done a 42.6 then tonight for Ginner then. Chazza said, I think me and Alex should join, should be in bronze, and Luke and Dan go to gold then. Seems like a fair swap then. Yeah, sounds like a very fair swap indeed then, to be fair. And Real Ashton has said, I am not last then. So, no, you're not then. So, of course, you've done a good time then in qualifying. And underway then for the formation lap indeed as well. Then we'll start off with the tyre situations. Then we'll turn that off. We don't want that. Wow, we've got quite a bit of a mix-up then in terms of the strategies here. Wow, we'll start off with the back of the order, shall we then? Rocket Lee then starting on the soft compound tyres then in the Mercedes, and of course no time on qualifying then, so we'll see what we can do then in the race itself. Then looking for a fast start then alongside Winnie then, of course Winnie's on the hard compound tyre, so switching the strategy around then I think for the Aston Martin. Then of course he's in a bit of a Mercedes sandwich at the moment, and both Mercedes on the soft compound tyres as well here, so That's going to be interesting stuff indeed. Winnie then is all over the back of the... well, this is going to get dangerous indeed as well then if Winnie... Wow, oh dear. Wow, that is very weavy, let's just say that then. As we go down the Kemmel Straight then. We've got Vintage on the medium compound tyres then in the Alpine, then starting on the probably the preferable tyre then to start off the Grand Prix. Real Ashton as well then on the soft compound tyres for the Red Bull then. We've got Mr. Elite on the medium compound tyres, as we've got quite a bit of a split then. We've got Rocket Lee and Winnie then have had a disqualification from the formation. And I didn't see that coming at all then. No, I'm being sarcastic there, but there we go. Then Mr. Elite then is on the medium compound tyres then, as is Ginger Rage is on the softs, as is Liam then medium compound tyres for the Williams driver. Then Sirius Russians up to the soft compound tyre to start the Grand Prix as well. Then in P12 then Jake the Slayer on the mediums as well. Then we've got quite a bunch of mediums then in the middle of the pack. Then we've got DeCanco, P10, Smithy in P9 and Corey then in P8, then all opting for the medium compound tyre to start off the Grand Prix. Sam then on his full-time debut then is on the soft compound tyres for the Ferrari. Then let's see how he goes then in this race as well. Then we've got Astra John then who's on the soft compound tyres, as is his teammate of Jenna then also on the soft compound tyres. But we've got Styles then in P5 in between them on the medium compound, and we've got Dynamo Dan then on the soft compound tyres for the Red Bull. Jenna then, as I mentioned, then on the soft compound to start off this race in P3. Both the front row drivers then, both Dan then, medium compound tyres for him then, and Luke then, of course, our pole sitter and championship leader then on the medium compound as well. Good stuff indeed. Right then, we get ourselves lined up on the grid then to start off the Belgian Grand Prix in just a jiffy. Then we'll switch over to the position changes to see what's going on. No, we won't. Yeah, we will. No, we won't. Yes, we will. What am I doing? There we go. Got it sorted in the end. Right then. Let's have a look and see as we get ourselves lined up on the grid then to start off the Belgian Grand Prix. Then let's have a look and see then how it's going to unfold then on the first lap or two. We will get ourselves through then and have a look at the position changes. Then we'll switch over to see what the tyre situation is as well. Then we expect the soft compound tyres to be quick then as the 5 red lights are coming on here in Belgium then for bronze. The 5 red lights are on. The 5 red lights are out and away we go for the Belgian Grand Prix of bronze season 9 then. It's a good start then from Luke then as he gets away nicely as well. Then we've got Jinder going down the inside then into turn 1. He's already up into P2 then passing the Alpine of Dan. We've got a few, there's a racing ball having an issue in the background as well, then heading through turn 1 as we head down the hill then towards Rouge and Rally. We've got Luke then scampering off into the distance as well as we go over the crest of the hill. We've got yellow flags out there. The Red Bull then has had an issue somewhere. Is that a safety car? I'm not quite sure then. It seems the race is nullified. It's a virtual safety car. What's happened then? Real Ashton has had an issue then. And he has got wing damage, I think, there as well then for the Red Bull. Then, unfortunately, then we've got quite a few movers and shakers. Then Liam's lost 3 places, and same for Jake the Slayer. Then I think he might have been the racing ball that had an issue in the background. Then we've got Ballin then up into P13, that is. He seems to be trying to warm up those tyres still, unfortunately. But unfortunately for those who have had their issues, then it seems like the racing ball then and the Williams then have had some sort of problem then into turn 1. Then we've got a VSC then on the first lap. I think that was for Real Ashton, who had lost quite a bit of a chunk of wing then, hadn't he, on the first corner as well. Then not quite sure what happened there as we head into turn 1 then. But yes, it seems to be a very keen first lap then for those at the back of the pack. Then I think they might have got a few mixed up in that one there. As we go through then into into sector 3, and of course VSC was deployed. That it's now been removed then as we get ourselves back underway and heading into sector 3 momentarily as well. Then Ginner then of course on the soft compound tyres then the start of this race has gained the place already then on Dan into turn 1 and is looking to try and chase down Luke for the race lead here into Blanchimont now then at the end of the first lap. Then heading through then we got Winnie, who's had another issue as well then. So Winnie's had a problem as well. Then Vintage and Rocket Lee are switching places as we go through into Blanchimont now as well. Then has Vintage got damage on that Alpine? Then it seems to be all right then for Vintage. I'm not quite sure if he's just struggling at the start of this Grand Prix with the colder tyres. Rocket Lee should have a colder tyre to be fair because he got disqualified very early on in qualifying. Then Luke set the fastest lap of the race then, but now DRS will be enabled after 1 lap. And we will have Ginner then, we will have Dan, Dynamo Dan as Astra John, then Hungry Styles, Corey, Brennan, San and DeCanco then, and Smith, the Serious Mushroom Mystery. I can't read out the whole list because there's all a whole list when he's in the pit lane. So when he's got some issues then as well, then unfortunately for the Aston Martin, then he's got some front wing to sort out. Then I didn't see that he had any front wing damage to be fair in sector 3, but he is definitely having a wing change there. As here comes Ginner then for the lead of the Grand Prix down the inside, then into sector 2. He's taken the lead of the Grand Prix away then as we've got some more fighting then down the back of the order then, but Luke has dropped down to P2. Then Ginner then takes the way then on the soft compound tyres. Then how long will the soft compounds last in this race is the question. Then we've seen some different strategies then of course, over gold, silver already then in the last couple of days. Then will we see some more strategies as well then as we head into the Belgian Grand Prix for bronze? 10 laps then of the on the soft compound tyre then to medium compound tyre is the predicted strategy then for the one stop, that is. Let's see how that's going to fare in this in the Grand Prix itself. Then as we go through, of course, there's different levels of tyre wear depending on how you drive as well. Then, of course, if you're an aggressive driver, then you'll wear out those tyres a lot quicker than some then who are very careful and dainty with their tyres as well. Then. But nonetheless, I'm neither. I'm just useless. There we go then. Heading into Sector 3 then through Paul Frere. Then the top 10 stretching their legs as well. Then, of course, over the rest of the field. Then we've got Winnie. Then he's had to make that pit stop onto medium compound tyres. Now with the front wing as well then has been changed. Real Ashton then I think is struggling on with some damage there as well. Then he has got right end plate damage then as well. Then Rocket Lee has passed Jake the Slayer then into Blanchimont and now trying to pass his teammate then as we go into the bus stop chicane. Then down the inside he goes. Then can he make the move stick? Then oh my goodness me, he's gone deep then and there's contact between the Mercedes pair. Then there's all sorts of issues between the Mercedes pair as we head into lap 3 then. And my goodness me, then there's no love lost down at Mercedes. Then there's no teamwork, no team orders down at Mercedes either. Then it looks like as we go through the final first turn and last source then is complete. Then heading down the hill towards Eau Rouge and Radion now. And they're just losing time then to the rest of the field ahead of them as we go up the hill then towards that DRS zone as well. Then I think Ballin is going to be under pressure here from his teammate and from Jake the Slayer as well. Then as we go through, and maybe even from Liam as well as we head up towards they've all gone through. My goodness me, then as we go into the chicane and wow, it's close then. Fantastic racing indeed then. But wow, they all got Constantine up then behind Ballin then it looked like. And unfortunately then they've lost a bit of time then to the rest of the field ahead of them. Then Ginger Age got himself past the Canker, then up into P12, then he's gained 2 places. Mr. Elite's gained 4, and he is on a storming lap then as well. Then Rocket Lee's gained 6 actually. He's done a fantastic job from the back of the field. So far so good then as we go through then into the depths of lap 3. Then of course it's a long old lap around here, but they're all doing a good job then so far then, just powering through. And I'm just unfortunately then for Real Ashton, I think he's got some damage that needs to be sorted out then on that car. Then hopefully he can get that into that pits and sort that damage out as quickly as possible. Then Vintage, I think he's not got any damage, I don't think, but he seems to be struggling then with some sort of technical difficulties then as well. And hopefully he can get himself back underway then quickly enough then as we head into lap 4. Oh, well, not lap 4 just yet. Then we're going through Blanchimont then into the bus stop chicane to finish off lap 3 then into lap 4. Luke leads the way then from Ginner. Then these two have swapped places then already then in this race a couple of times so far. Of course with the DRS then, of course they got DRS down towards turn 1 here, and then DRS again then at the top of the hill then into along the Kemmel Straight then in towards sector 2 then. So let's have a look and see then how it's going to unfold on this lap now. But I think there's going to be some chopping and changing still to come then, of course, so long as those soft compound tyres can live on then, that is. And how long will they live on for then is the question. Then we'll switch over to the tyre situation as well then to see what the strategies are going to be like then for the drivers then unfolding in this race before our very eyes. And Corey's got himself past Sand then into P7, and here comes Smithy as well then. So Sand's had an issue somewhere through over the top of the hill and has lost 2 places then as we go into sector 2. Then that was very close to Smithy. I thought he was going to go for a lunge there, but not quite. Soft compound tyres might be starting to struggle already then here as we see Sand dropping down 2 places then as we go through into sector 2, then down towards the corner of No Name then for Astrojon. Then he's doing a great job so far in this race. Then let's see if we can keep it all together then. So far so good then out in front for the top of the order then. It's been brilliant stuff indeed. Rocket a reserve question mark says Briars then. He is reserving tonight then in the Mercedes as well then, looking very good so far then. He's gained 6 places then from the back of the grid after the difficulties in qualifying as well then for the Mercedes driver. And yes, there we go then as we head into sector 3 then once again then into Paul Frere. Then Luke that back end stepping out for Luke then, and that could open the door then potentially for Jim to get his nose interested in that diffuser as we head in towards the fast straight then on the back of the circuit then into Blanchimont now for storming through a fantastic camera angle then as we've got Ginger Rage had an issue then. Ginger Rage is off the circuit then somewhere at Paul Frere I think then, and he's dropped down behind his teammate then as well then as Rocket Lee has stormed past the Kanker. Then he's had some fantastic pace. He's harvesting energy as well then, but he's managed to get himself through then. Ginger Rage is under pressure from Liam as we go into the bus stop chicane. Then he's on the soft compound tyres. It doesn't look like there's any wing damage there for Ginger Rage, which is good stuff. Heading into the into lap 5 then for the Racing Bull team then, but yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe he had an issue on the curb then. That curb on the inside then at Paul Frere then is a bit dodgy, isn't it? So I would stay off it. if you're worried about that, that's what you need to deal with. But here comes Hungry Styles. Then he's on the charge and as well. They're trying to get himself past Astra John here, and he has got some DRS then to play with as well. Jinner has lost out to Dan, has he? No, not quite. Then Jinner dives down the inside and keeps hold of the place for the time being on those soft compound tyres. I think we're seeing the switch over here. Then the soft compound tyres starting to fade in this 5th lap now. Styles up into P5, then he's got Dynamo Dan, then is the next target. Then of course extending the soft stint now is the paramount feature then for the soft runners to try and get those softs as far into the race then as they can, of course, whilst being competitive is the other question then. So I found that out on Sunday that I'm not competitive, to be fair. So there we go. Corey's picked up a first penalty of the evening, unfortunately, then going through Pouillon then for the Williams driver. Then that is the first penalty then on the oh no, it's not. Both Williams then unfortunately having an issues then through Pouillon. Then they've picked up 3 track limit warnings in already in the first 5 laps, and unfortunately then that's going to be added on to their race time at the end of the Grand Prix. But we do expect some penalties might be added on then towards well, for every driver that is, of course, with track limits being very important these days in Grand Prix racing. Then Jinner has lost out to the DRS of Luke. Then this could be problematic then for the McLaren. Then this is maybe where those soft compound tyres just start to fade then, and yes, he's out of DRS range then heading into the bus stop chicane. Then that's going to be costly indeed then as we go through, and he's always losing the cars. Would go then Dan then coming through into P2, then has claimed that position then with the DRS as well, then heading down towards turn 1. Then Jinner is all over the place there as well, then heading into the first corner then, but he has stayed behind then in P3 now. Dynamo Dan, sorry, is waiting the wings as well there. Styles then has cut the gap down to the top of the order as well then as we head down the hill and up the hill, then into Eau Rouge and Radion. Then Astra John is out of the DRS range, so the soft compound tyres starting to struggle here. Then Hungry Styles might have to make a move quickly then because he needs to try and keep up with Dan as well then as we head into sector 2 then, and Jinner is giving Dynamo Dan the squeeze as we go into the source then. Has he got the move done? Not quite then, and Styles then is stuck behind these two as they battle then through the chicane as well then. Goodness me. DeCanco passing Rocket League, then the soft compound tyres starting to struggle out there for sure as they've got quite a lot of runners then on the soft, then starting to drop back then and lose places then as we go down into sector where are we? Sector 2, sorry, goodness me. So Ginger Rage then and Liam then having a battle as well. Then it looks like then Mr. Elite then has got himself in a bit of no man's land, to be fair. Mr. Elite's in clear air with everybody else been fighting around him. Right at the top of the order then we've got Styles then all over the back of Dynamo Dan. Then of course he's now pushing those soft runners then to try and keep up with Dan then, but Dan stormed off in the distance. Then Rocket Lee and Jake the Slayer have switched places as well. Then Jake the Slayer on the medium compound tyre, so I think this is where we're seeing the soft compound tyres starting to fade. Then potentially we can get you on the hard compound tyres from here and go to the end of the Grand Prix. It will be a stretch indeed. The hard compound tyre then will start to struggle as well then towards the end of the stint then, but well, maybe it won't then, to be fair. I'm not quite sure. I didn't use the hard compound tyre, to be fair, in gold as we got movements out in front. Then Dynamo Dan then down the inside into the bus stop chicane up into P3. And Parts and Jinner then as we go through then into the bus stop chicane, then onto the 7th lap I should say. Then Dynamo Dan then is scampering off in the distance then as well. He's got himself past the McLaren then, but Styles then is trying to get himself past both of them, of course, because he's on the medium compound tyre, which is probably the better tyre slightly at this stage, but he's gone into the back of Jinner there, and maybe Jinner's starting to struggle a bit too much then. Of course Styles then needs to make sure that as we saw in gold then, you have to make sure that if you're trying to overtake, then you are the one who is keeping it clean then and making sure you make the overtake cleanly as well then. Heading on to the Camel Straight then, here we go then, here comes Styles then, he's going to go for the outside then as Dynamo Dan then tries to cover them off then, but Styles has got them both then. There's contact then as Jinner then's gone into the back of the Haas and round the outside. Dynamo Dan holds on to the place as well then, but unfortunately then Jinner I think has been unsettled the car as well. Then Victor's got a 3 out as well then, yeah, Dynamo Dan I think has got himself through then, so Jinner then unsettled the car then going into the back of the Haas then trying to keep the place then, and the overspeed just wasn't in his favour. Then Astrodrol has caught up to the fight as well here in the other McLaren. Then when will McLaren, of course if they stop now, they're going to have to double stack then, and that will be very costly indeed for Astrodrol. Then when will they call their drivers into the pit lane? Then they'll have to stagger the pit stops then for McLaren as well. We'll find out. 2 seconds back is Corey then, but of course he might be catching up very quickly indeed on those medium compound tyres compared to the soft runners. Then we've got some pit stop. Then Rocket Lee is in the pits then for the hard compound, as is Ginger Rage as well. Then so Ginger Rage has called it day then on the soft compound tyres as well. Then he switches for the hard compound tyres now as well. Then can they get to the end? Then got to have to do about 16 laps or so, which is probably doable then for the hards. Will they be able to be competitive to the end of the Grand Prix? Though we'll find out then. So far so good then. as we go through then, as we head into as Winnie's caught up then as well. Then Winnie's doing a good job then trying to keep himself back in this, get himself back in this race. And then Jake the Slayer has got himself past Serious Mushroom, then heading into Blanchimont then as well. Then of course the medium compound tyres for Jake the Slayer are more competitive now at this stage then compared to the soft, I would imagine, as we're going to see potentially some more pit stops then. But those on the soft compound tyres then, both McLarens then and Dynamo Dan have stayed out then for this lap as well then. So far so good then. Can Dynamo Dan keep up with Styles is the question then. Heading down towards Eau Rouge and Radion now. But I think it's dropped out that DRS range then, which is just indicative then of the medium compound tyre being a much better tyre than Smithy then is on the medium compound tyre. And can he line up a move then for P7 here on Corey Brennan then? Can he get the DRS then? Can he get the overtake done? Yes, he can. Up into P7 then for Smithy then. He's making some moves then as well, getting himself further up the order then, keeping it consistent and clean then for Smithy then in the kick Sauber. And if you can't see him coming, he's luminous green then. So yeah, that keeps everyone on their toes. They are gaining quite quickly indeed then on Jinner, then on Astrodron then, and on Dynamo Dan then. The medium compound tyre then is really kicking on now as well. Then the soft compound tyre dropping off so quickly that or even in this lap I think Smithy might be able to get himself within the DRS range then of the McLaren pair as we head into Pouillon now then in the middle of the lap as well then. So far so good. But now we see those who are on the soft start to struggle. I think here then this is where we might start to think about a switch of strategy then for those on the soft compound tyres then. Can they eat the tyres out then? Can they stay in DRS then of those on the medium compound tyres, or will there have to be an early stop then? Those who have stopped already then, Rocket Lee then for the hard compound tyres, and Ginger Rage also on for the hard compound tyres as well then, after starting on the soft compound for those two as well then. So we'll have to wait and see then if that'll change then of course, and will we see it change back in their favour as well then later on in the Grand Prix as well. Then we'll find out in in 22, well not in 22 laps, then we'll find out in about 14 laps or so as we go through then on to lap 9 then. We have got stoppers then, we've got Jinner then into the pit lane then, calling it a day then on the soft compound tyre then for McLaren. He will get a nice undercut then potentially then on a fresh set of tyres as well then, but where will he come out is the question then. Serious Mushroom then into the pits as well then for the Aston Martin team, then calling it a day then on the soft compound tyres as well then. So the soft runners coming in then. Balint is sticking it out then, he's stuck behind Vintage for the time being, but he's still going I should say then. Real Ashton has lost out to Ginger Rage and into the bus stop goes Ginger Rage, very deep indeed then into the bus stop chicane then, but he's got himself through and up into P18. Mushroom coming out the pit lane now will be very close indeed I think then to Ginger Rage, and he's coming out very slowly indeed then is Mushroom. Then he's got himself back underway then behind Rocket Lee, DeCanco and Jake the Slayer switching places then. P10 now for Jake the Slayer then, and up into the top 10 positions then for the Racing Bull, then racing on then as well then, trying to catch San, who is the next runner then on the soft compound tyres as well then. Smithy then all over the back now of Astrodron and Dynamo Dan, then they've lost almost 2 seconds to Styles then, who's 3 seconds back from the top 2, but Dan has caught up to Luke, and these two are the top 2 challengers then for the Drivers' Championship as it stands as well then. And Dan is 20 points behind Luke then of course, so a swing in the Drivers' Championship then would not be instrumental in changing the order then, but of course if Dan can get himself past, then he will be able to claw back some more points then in his favour then for the championship fight as well then. Astrodron then right behind Dynamo Dan, then they've lost 2 seconds now to Styles then in the podium order, then that is Smithy then is caught up as well, then Smithy on the medium compound tyres now, he is roaring away in the kick Sauber then to get himself up into P6 now as well, then chasing down Astrodron then for the next place then. Will they come into the pit lane then? Will they peel into the box then at the end of this lap as well? We'll wait and see. Dynamo Dan is coming into the pit lane. He's calling it a day on the soft compound tyres then for the Red Bull team then. So he's done and dusted then. Dan is also in the pit lane as well then. That's an interesting call then from Dan. He's only done 9 laps then, but he's on the medium compound tyre then. So he is calling it a day the same time as those on the softs as well then. So that is very interesting stuff indeed. So he's come out on the hard compound tyre then. Maybe he thinks the medium hard then is the better strategy. Then we'll find out in the under 22 laps then, to be fair. Coming out in P8 then, bit of clear air then for the Alpine then. Jinner then has gone through then into turn 1 then. He is going to be a few seconds behind the Alpine driver of Dan. Of course coming out then a bit further behind as well then. Smithy has got himself past Astrodron then for P3 then, with some DRS assistance as well then, passing the McLaren as we go through, and then Astrodron is soldiering on then on the soft compound tyres. DeCanco back past Slayer then, heading into sector 2 then. DeCanco's on a bit deep then, but he's held on to the place just about then for the Ferrari driver. Oh dear, that back end trying to step out as well then for DeCanco. Then Slayer then is just a bit wary then of that, as Dan then is in P8 then 4 seconds away. The battling pack ahead of him. 4 seconds back to Jinner, who's pitted a lap before then for the medium compound tyres. So Jinner's had an issue, I think, somewhere, trying to push maybe a bit too hard on the out lap then, on the first lap then, I should say, for the medium compound tyre, maybe, as Real Ashton's in the pit lane for medium compound as well then, and out he goes and back underway. So good stuff indeed then. Real Ashton, I think, has had that front wing sorted as well then for the Red Bull car. We've got Astrodron then, who's still holding on to Smithy then. Smithy, of course, has passed him at the Kemmel straight then, but he's still doing a good job of sticking with him then as we headed into Sector 2 then, which is a bit more technical then. So on older tyres, you expect that the gaps might start to form then, but Astrodron has done a very good job then of holding on then for the time being. We've got more movers and shakers then. We've got Ballant being passed then by ASR San, then San, of course, on his debut, then is on fresh medium compound tyres. Now can he chase after the rest of the order? Then we've got Luke in the pit lane, as Luke is calling it a day on the medium compound tyres a lap later as well. Then same for Styles as well then. So maybe they're thinking that the medium soft is not the best strategy here. Smithy carries on then to take the lead of the Grand Prix. And very good, very well done indeed then. Mr. Elite is also carrying on as well, and Styles is also in the pit, so both one of the kick Saubers and one of the Hasses in the pit lane, then both the others having to carry on then, as Dukanko's carried on to P3, then Jake the Slayer will carry on then into P4, then Dan and Luke, then where are they going to be then as we come out the pit lane? Now Dan is on the hard compound tyre. He's done 1 lap extra then, but of course he's going to be now within DRS then of his championship rival of Luke as well then, but he hasn't got the undercut then, which we did expect then, of course, on a longer lap as well then, but Dan now has got some DRS then to try and keep up with Luke. Then of course he's back where he started then, unfortunately, in terms of he was stuck behind Luke. Well, not stuck behind because it wasn't too slow, but he was behind Luke then, of course, before the pit stop phase. Jake the Slayer back past the Kanko as those two carry on their fight then as well. Now 2 seconds back then is Luke. Dan is caught up then as well. Then he's harvesting energy though is Dan, so maybe he's having some sort of burning a lot of battery then on that outlap then to try and get himself into contention for the race lead, but unfortunately hasn't worked out just yet. Dynamo Dan and medium compound tyres for him then. He's behind Styles, who's on the hard compound tyre and has pitted a lap later. So very interesting stuff indeed. There's all sorts of strategies going on out there. Nobody opting for the soft compound tyre just yet then, but Dukanko then is now going to be under pressure then from Luke and Dan as well. Then 3 seconds back then is Jinner on the medium compound as well. So if they start battling them with these drivers then who are yet to pit, then they will get involved, or they're getting involved. They will get involved anyway, but they will get Jinner then back in the fight, then potentially bring Styles and Dynamo Dan and Corey and Astrodron then back into the fight as well here. Vintage is being passed by Serious Mushroom then into Sector 2, then Mushroom over to P14 then on the hard compound tyres and Storming on then. Good stuff indeed. Dan then and Luke then have caught up then to Dukanko and to Jake the Slayer then round the outside, that turns to the inside then for oh dear, he's spun the car then as Dukanko, and he's lost out to both Luke and Dan then, but thankfully he ghosted to be fair, because otherwise that could have been very problematic indeed. Then Mr. Elite is into the pit lane. Mr. Elite is calling it a day then on the medium compound tyres. Where will he come out then is the rest of the order then as we go through into turn 1. Then Dan is behind Luke, then they're both behind Jake the Slayer. They need to get themselves past Jake the Slayer because Jake the Slayer is not pitted yet in this Grand Prix, but is still allowed to race them, of course. Jinner then is caught up to Dukanko as well here, so let's see what's going to happen then as we go over the crest of the hill then down towards Sector 2 then as we go through. Then Luke has already gone past. Here comes Dan as well then. And Dan is going to fly through then into P3 then, of course, net P2 I should say, because Smithy is yet to pit. Then he's 9 seconds up the road at the moment. Then we've got Jinner then stuck behind, or not stuck behind again, I keep saying that, but then technically they're on track then. They're not no blue flags being waved then as we go into Sector, oh my goodness me, I thought he was going to go for a lunge then. That was going to be very dodgy indeed then, but he can't get himself past the Ferrari for the time being. Then Dukanko doing a very good job then into the corner of No Name as well as we go down the hill. Astrodron then has caught up to Hungry Styles. Then Dynamo Dan has got himself ahead of the Haas. Then, of course, now on the medium compound tyres, can he push on then and try and get himself back in the fight then for another podium finish? Then we'll have to wait and see then how it all unfolds. Then San is now behind Rocket Lee. Then Rocket Lee, of course, pitted earlier. Then one of the earliest of the pit stoppers, I should say, has got himself up into P11. Then just outside the top 10 for the time being. Then is Rocket Lee, but of course there's still the other drivers yet to pit then in this race. And we might see some more pit stops coming very soon. Then as Jake the Slayer then is lost out to Dan. And there's no DRS then for the Racing Bull. Then can Dukanko get himself back in that window? Yes, he can as well. Then so he's now under the second mark and will get some DRS down the main straight, that is. So far, so good then. Yellow flags, then we've got a problem then. It's Rocket Lee who's had an issue somewhere. Where has he gone then? He's gone straight on then, it looks like. No, he's gone off then at the Paul Frere. Then he's dropped down the order then. Unfortunately, Rocket Lee then he has had a problem there somewhere. Has got himself back underway quickly enough though. But he's now going to be under pressure from Winnie then, as Winnie's gone through into P16. Then we've got more pit stop action in the midst of all of this as well. Then soft compound tyres going on. Smithy's kick Sauber. Jake the Slayer is also in the pits, and Dukanko's also in the pits as well then. And soft compound tyres going on all these cars. Then I can't can't keep track of all the position changes, to be fair, so slow down, would you please? But there we go then. P8 then from Smithy coming out of the pit lane ahead of Sand then on his debut, and Mr. Elite then in the Haas. Ginger Age has passed his teammate Slayer then, of course. Slayer's now on the soft compound tires. We've got to change for the leaders. Dan has taken the lead of the Grand Prix into lap 13, then into sector 2. The Alpine now charges on, then Astrotron has got himself past Styles then, has he? Yes, he has, then up into P5 then for Astrotron then. Of course, he was looking pretty good then in this first stint as well, then he's now got himself back up into P5 then. Can he chase down Dynamo Dan then in the next few laps or so as well here? Jake the Slayer then has lost out to his teammate then after the pit stop phase, but of course now on the soft compound tires, we'll be looking pretty quick on those soft compounds. Will they get to the end of the Grand Prix? Of course, we saw the soft start to drop off around lap 4 into lap 5 or so for those who started on the soft side is, but of course they're now a bit lighter on fuel then, but maybe the weight of the car then is a bit better than in the favour of the soft compound tyres. We'll have to wait and see. Leon then is right behind Dukanko then as well. Then Rocket Lee has dropped down there, but he's still soldiering on out there, so fair play indeed. Then Vintage as well then is soldiering on. Same for Ballant and same for Real Ashton as well. Then Jake the Slayer has got himself past Ginger Rage, and I think there might be some team orders down at Racing Bull then to let Jake the Slayer go through and use those soft compound tyres to their worth then as we go through into the next stint, then into the second stint, which is potentially or hopefully the final stint as well then for most drivers as we head into the bus stop chicane this time for Corey Brennan. Then right behind Styles, who's right behind Astra John. Then are they catching Dynamo Dan is the question. Yes, they are slightly as we go through into lap 14. Then Dan now under pressure for the lead of the Grand Prix, then with Luke then waiting in the wings as well. Then Jinner then in a bit of no man's land at the moment. Then he's 2 seconds behind the top two then, but he's now 2.5 seconds or so ahead of Dynamo Dan as well. Then Astrotron has had an issue then because he's lost out to the DRS then of Dynamo Dan as well. Then Styles then has lost out with that whole situation as well then, but now he's going to have some DRS to try and get himself back past then as Luke's taking the lead back from Dan then in towards sector 2 then on lap 14. So Dynamo Dan then Jinner then scampering off in the distance, and a bit of a no man's land as well here. Styles then, is he going to go for a move? Not quite. Then he's now got Corey Brennan then right on the back of him as well. Then Smithy Almighty then on the soft compound tyres might be looking to try and get himself in this fight as well. We'll wait and see, but of course, like I said, the question is how long the soft compound tyres can last as well. Then Rocket Lee unfortunately gets a penalty then going through Rouge and Radion, then very easy to get a penalty through there. I have done it myself. Then as San has had an issue, then San is off the circuit. What has happened then for the Ferrari? Then he's had an issue then at the exit of the chicane, I think. Then trying to get himself back underway. Then yes, he's getting himself back just ahead of Winnie then as well. Then who has gone through into the next right-hander. Then at Sand then trying to get that car recovered. Then he's back underway quickly enough. Then Mr. Elite's picked up a penalty. Then that's going to be costly indeed because Mushroom is bearing down then in the Aston Martin. But yeah, there we go. Then unfortunately Sand's dropping down the field. Then as Sand's got wing damage, that is why then he's had an issue. Then has the Ferrari driver unfortunately then. Oh dear, that is not the racing line, unfortunately, then as well. And my God, you need to make sure you come back on the track safely as well there, because faster drivers then drivers without any damage as well, then I'll be coming through then on the track itself. And wow, that is he's definitely got in the way then of Rocket Lee. But of course, technically they're allowed to race at this point. But I would say then if you have got damage like that, probably best just to get out of the way to let other drivers who are racing their own race go through. Maybe sets the fastest lap of the race then in the kick-out, but then he's now trying to catch up to this pack then, which is fighting for P5 at the moment then, but they're trying to catch Dynamo Dan for P4 as well here, so it's not getting it's getting closer and closer, more and more bunched up then as we get towards the end of the race. Then will San come into the pit lane then? Yes, he is going to be into the box then to sort out that front wing, then hopefully get that cranked on I should say, goodness me then, and onto a new set of boots then to go for the end of the race then as Styles and Astrotron then. Styles has got this contact then, and Astrotron's gone miles off the circuit. Then where has he gone then? He's got himself back on, but he's going to be behind. No, he's ahead of Smithy, but yes, wow, that was very dangerous indeed. Then I think Corey then gave him a squeeze then into the chicane then on the entry there, and that has cost Astra John then as well. Then well, he's not cost him too much because he's actually caught back up very quickly indeed, to be fair. So fair play indeed. Then he's just swiped that off or wiped that off, and then got himself back underway. Then as Ashton Army and San then switching places. Then San now onto the soft compound tyres, and will be very quick indeed then to the end of the Grand Prix from here on those soft compound tyres as well. Then. And looking to get a move straight away back on Ashton as well then as we go into the Camel Straight then and back up into P19. Then he's got a 9-second gap to try and catch up to Ballant. Then is his next target. Then here comes Dan. He's all over the back of his next target, which is Luke. Then of course these two have been battling. Then they've been their own targets then as well then in this race so far. Then they're in a bit of no man's land, 2 seconds ahead of P3. Then another 3 seconds back now is Dynamo Dan. Then he is on his own at the moment as well. Then but Styles is catching up now as well on those hard compound tyres as well. Then Corey Brennan coming with him, then Astra John and Smithy Almighty as well in this fight for for P4. Blimey, fantastic race so far. It's been action-packed indeed onto lap 16 then. We're flying through. And here comes Smithy then on the charge then. Can he get himself up into P7 then is the next target then, but not quite then into turn 1. So we sit quietly behind then, stay behind, be patient, and watch for the lights. Well, I've watched for the lights already then, thankfully. Here comes Dan Dan then. Can Dan Dan take the lead of the Grand Prix once again then? As these two then working together, I think, at this stage of the race then to try and just make sure they can eke the gap out then as well then, as Dan Dan takes the lead of the Grand Prix into Sector 2 and has got himself past Luke then dropping down to P2 for the time being. We've got Corey and Styles then switching places then into the chicane then. My goodness me, Astrodron looked like he was going to repeat the feat then and have another incident into the chicane as well there, but thankfully slowed the car down just in time. And that is now down to it's down in P7, I should say, then for the time being. Of course, Corey's got a penalty then as well, so Corey will drop down behind the 3 behind him as it stands then, of course, but there might be some more chopping and changing in terms of the positions anyway in the next few laps or so then. So there we are then, 3 seconds the gap then for Dynamo Dan to get himself one of the podium places then. Jinner then is slowly creeping up to the back of the top 2 then as it stands then. Maybe Luke's had a bit of an issue then, but yes, he's at 1.7 seconds behind now as we go into Sector 3. And finish off lap 16. Dynamo Dan then on the charge as well. Then Dynamo Dan's on 1 lap fresher tyres than Jenner. Then Astrodron's on the freshest tyres in the top 10. Then on the in terms of the medium compound, that is. Smithy's on 3 lap old soft compound tyres, but we did start to see the soft compound start to drop off around the 4th lap, I should say. Then at the start of the Grand Prix for those that started on the softs, yes, we'll have to wait and see as we go into... Oh, we've got yellow flags then. It's an Aston Martin, I think it's Winnie then who's had an issue. Then who's going to the bus stop chicane. Astrodron down the inside of Styles then. Has he got the switch back though for Styles? Then round the outside goes the McLaren, and he's got the move up into P6 then and passes Styles as well then. Fantastic stuff indeed. And it's very bunched up there as well then, of course, but everyone is behaving themselves very well indeed on to lap 17 so far. I think Winnie had an issue then. Winnie's on the soft compound tyre. Winnie's got front wing damage, that's why. So he's had an issue somewhere at the top of the hill then, and trying to get himself back to the pit lane. Unfortunately for Winnie then, it's gone from bad to worse in this race, which is a big shame indeed, because Winnie's very fast on his day indeed, isn't he? So we've seen some fantastic performances then from Winnie then, but unfortunately just struggling then in this race as well. Then Styles has got himself back past Astrodron. There's more contact into the chicane, and my goodness me, then I'm very keen on trying to get themselves pushed to pass then in that chicane, it looks like. But thankfully no issues then have occurred on that one then. DeCanco has passed Ginger Rage, and we've got more problems then. It's for a Mercedes, and it's Ballint then. No, it's not Ballint, it's Rocket Lee's had an issue at the, where's that? The exit of turn 1 somehow. And my goodness me, then Rocket Lee then having terrible troubles up there. Winnie then has got himself back into the pit lane finally then to himself a new front wing out then, and get himself onto a new set of boots as well then. So unfortunately then for Winnie then and for Rocket Lee then, both of them struggling then with wing damage at this stage of the race. Then Ballint and Vintage are battling into the chicane. My goodness me, then Ballint seems to be using the D-pad to steer there, it looks like, but there we go. Ginger Rage dropping down to P13. DeCanco's gone through on the soft compound tyres. Rocket Lee's picked up a penalty then with the wing damage, unfortunately going through the chicane there as well. Then he's got San then trying to catch up as well to him in the background. Then of course San on the soft compound tyres then is soldiering on out there as well then. So let's see what San can do then as we go into the corner of no name then. Will he get past Rocket Lee then? Yes, he will. Then there's contact then as Rocket Lee then has not been aware then of the Ferrari then coming through. Unfortunately then Rocket Lee on the wing with the wing damage as well there. Now into lap 18, then here comes Dan Dan down the hill then towards Eau Rouge and Radion. Then we've got Corey and Styles then battling into turn 1 there as well. Then my goodness me, then who's going to get the DRS is the question as well. Go down the hill then in towards Eau Rouge and Radion again then, and a bit of DRS chicken then. Oh my god, there's contact from Styles there as well. Looks like then we've got Corey dropping down past 3 of them now. And we go through then onto the Kettle Straight. I think Smithy's got an illegal overtake, so he's let Corey go back through there. Astrodron then is looking to go up and move then on Styles as well. Then if we go into the chicane, then he's got himself up into P5 now for Astrodron then. Yes, wow, Styles then was not letting anyone go through then up the hill then towards Eau Rouge and Radion there. Yes, of course, it's very tight to try and go through there on your own, isn't it? So to be fair, trying to go through side by side is probably not the best option. Let's just say that then. Ginger Rage, is trying to get himself past DeCanco. Then will those soft compound tyres start to drop off before the end of the Grand Prix? They've got to do 5 more laps then, including this one, so I think they might start to drop off, you know. We'll have to wait and see then. Smithy might start to struggle as well, then we'll have to wait and see. Driver of the day is out in the comment section, and you've got your candidates then of Jinner, Dynamo Dan, Dan and Luke then are your driver of the day options, or nominees I should say then, in the comment section then. So get your votes in then for who you think is the driver of the day then. In terms of the position changes, I will find it in a minute. None of them have changed positions, so they've all been racing their own race and doing a good job then as well then out in this race. So far so good. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see then if there's going to be any chopping and changing in the rest of the laps then here in Spa-Francorchamps. But so far the top 4 then are your driver of the day nominees. There's no penalties, there's no situations then for those top 4. They are storming on then onto lap 19, then 4 laps to go then, including this one. Brilliant stuff indeed then. Like I said, it's been racing very good indeed then from the rest of most of the field, I should say then. Fantastic stuff indeed then. Of course there's been a bit of bumps and scrapes, let's just say then, but so far absolutely brilliant stuff out there as well then from the bronze grid then, as we've been accustomed to be fair. Then be fantastic. As we go over the top of the hill then, here comes Corey Brennan then looking to line up a move on Styles. Then Styles going to have some DRS then to try and defend as we go down straight then towards the chicane. I should say he's got himself past then back up into P6 then as Corey, and always close indeed then to cutting off that Haas then as we go into the chicane itself. Then Smithy then I think is maybe just very wisely just trying to save the energy in those soft compound tyres to get him to the end of the Grand Prix so that he can stay with the pack here and at least stay with the penalty situation then with Corey as well. Then with that 3 seconds going to be added onto his race time as well. Then we'll have a look at the penalty situation just a minute. 3 seconds for Corey, then 3 for Mr. Lee, then 9 for Liam, but it won't cost him a place as it stands. Vintage has got 3 as well, then 6 for Rocket Lee, then unfortunately then for Rocket Lee and for Winnie then in P20, then he's got 3 seconds, but he's soldiering on up there, which is fair play indeed then. Winnie's got the fastest lap of the race then. Brilliant stuff from Winnie then, and that will be an extra point then so long as he can finish the Grand Prix itself as well then. So fantastic stuff indeed. Well done indeed then to Winnie. Then Rocket Lee I think is doing the same as well, so Rocket Lee and Winnie are going to have a shootout then for that fastest lap point, which is great to see indeed, because it's still a point to be won then in this Grand Prix wherever you finish as well then. As San has picked up a 3-second vote, then he's pushing hard then is San then trying to get himself back into contention then with the top 15. Here comes Dan then he's right behind onto lap 20, and then only 2 laps to go then after this one, then 3 or 2 and a bit then to go as we head into La Source for the 20th time. Wow, fantastic stuff indeed then. So let's have a look and get your votes in then for driver of the day as we go through then into the last couple of laps as well here. Then we've got who we got then. Rocket Lee as yes, I'm a reserve then. The Meds will go very soon, says Kamara Racing. Then Lucas Pers who said, what did you eat before gold? My pace on the mediums was mental. I don't think so. I really don't think so. San and Real Ashton, I think San's had another issue then, so we're going through Sector 2, and that has got Real Ashton up into P17 now as well. Good stuff indeed. Yeah, like I was saying, what did I eat before gold? I think I had, what did I have? I don't remember, lasagna or something like that. No, it was my pace wasn't very good on mediums, to be fair. I was trying to catch the points, because I think I pitted after you anyway because of the VSC at the beginning then. So I stayed out during that VSC and then cracked on then with a normal strategy basically when the soft compound tyres dropped off. So I was going all right, I suppose you could say, on the mediums, but not too good. Not good enough, I should say, but there we are then. That's my whole story in gold, to be fair. Right then, back to the action then. We've got Dan then chasing down at Luke for the lead of the Grand Prix then. Will there be some movers and shakers then in the last couple of laps then? Of course, only 2 laps to go then when they cross the start-finish line then on this occasion. And we will see. I must have been slow then. Well, I think it might have just been your wheel issue, to be fair, because it seemed to be causing a bit of problems there. Let's just say that. As Astra John is all over the place, then Jake the Slayer is all over the place. Sorry, he's all over the back of Corey, heading into the bus stop chicane then. And like I said, Jake the Slayer picking up a penalty as well. Then Jake the Slayer will lose that place to his teammate, but he won't lose any places. So it'll still be the same amount of points then for the. We've got problems then for Williams. It's Liam then who's had an issue at Paul Frere. Then he's coming back on the circuit. Then he's not going to be in too much danger, I don't think, of losing any places, unless he's got some serious damage there as well. He might have some serious damage then. Yes, he has lost a right end plate then for Lear. Then that's going to be costly indeed. Can he get to the checkered flag? Can he hold on to that P14 position? That will be 2 points on the cards. Dan has taken the lead of the Grand Prix then. On to the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix we go as well now, and Dan leads the way then ahead of Luke. Hungry Styles and Astra John are passing each other as well, then heading into the chicane then once again. Then is there going to be a move then? Yes, he has made the move, and he has made it stick as well. Then P6 for him. More problems at the Paul Frere, and Vintage this time, I think, has come a cropper as well. Then Vintage has lost the left end plate this time for Vintage. My goodness me, they're all having issues as well with Paul Frere. Then it seems Liam has entered the pit lane, so Liam then is going to is going to be very, very costly indeed. The Ginger Age's got a penalty as well. Then my goodness me, they're all adding up now, and well, for Racing Ball it won't make any difference, I don't think. But there we go. Then Sam, then Vintage also in the pits as well. Then so unfortunately, like I said, everyone coming to an end. Then it seems that at Paul Frere, then Winnie's got a bit of a tank slapper on then coming out of the bus stop chicane then, but has got himself that place then. Rocket Lee then coming through then to finish off the fastest lap attempt, I think, as well. Then let's see what Rocket Lee can do. Can he get himself that fastest lap point as well? Then yes, he can. At 43.494 is better than my quali time, to be fair. Vintage back out on track as well then. Here comes Luke. Here comes Dan. Then they're very close to lapping everyone actually here, but of course there has been some extra stops for those at the back of the field, unfortunately, then with their mishaps as well. Then, but here we go. Then onto the final lap of the Grand Prix. Then Dan trying to break the toe then from Luke. Then as we head into La Source then for the final time here in bronze tonight. It has been an absolute brilliant race then from the bronze grid. Then they've been a fantastic force then here in Belgium tonight. Then let's see what's going to happen here. Then as we go up the hill then for the final time. Then Luke is closing in on Dan. As we head onto the Camel Straight then for the final time. Then here comes Luke, the championship leader. Can he get himself back in the race lead? Then Dan is harvesting ARS. Then as Luke goes through and takes the lead of the Grand Prix then into Sector 2. And I think he's got it then as well. Then of course, depending on what Dan's got to fight with then in the last part of the lap. Then we've got more movers and shakers, I should say, then heading into Sector 2 as well. Then as Astrodron has got himself up into P5, I should say, then ahead of Styles now, and Corey then dropping down to P7 for the time being. Then can he make a late move? Then not quite. The gap is not there for Corey. Then he stays behind for now. That is. Smithy then doing a good job. Then 9 laps on the soft mud band tyres is going to be pretty good stuff indeed. As Ginger Rage has got himself past Decanco. Then where has he gone? Oh dear, he's off the circuit. Then that is why he's got himself past Decanco and has dropped back behind. Then we've got Dan has got himself back past Luke. Then what's happened? I completely missed it then, but Dan has snuck through in Sector 2, and that's not an overtaking place, I don't think. But nonetheless, Dan has gone for it and has got the move done. Then back into the race lead, and now onto the back straight. Then can we get a see? Can we see? Will we see a photo finish as Luke is coming back at him? Then through into Blanchemont. Then he's got the move back for the race lead as we go through that into the final couple of calls. I don't think Dan has got anything left to fight with as well as we head into the bus stop chicane. Is there going to be a late lunge then for Dan? Then not quite. He's too far back. Then he's made contact almost with the back, and that kicks over. But Luke comes round the bus stop then to win the Belgian Grand Prix by 4 tenths of a second. Then Luke claims the victory here in Belgium. Fantastic stuff indeed, and what a fantastic race as well. Then as they all filter in the background as well. Then Dan in P2 by 4 tenths of a second. Fantastic stuff indeed. Then Gino then rounds off the podium places. Then a fantastic result for Gino as well. And then after a few races with difficulties as well, then in the previous rounds, Dynamo Dan P4, then Astrodron in P5. Fantastic race from Astrodron as well. Then Hungry Stars P6, then Smithy P7. I'm losing my voice here as well. Then Corey P8, then even with the penalty, then still got some good points. Then Mr. Elite in P9, then Serious Mushroom in the top 10, then Ducanco P11, both the Racing Bulls, Ginger H and Jake the Slayer, then P12 and P13 respectively. Then Ballet will come through in P14 and claim 2 points as well. Then we've got more yellow flags out there as well. Then I think for the Ferrari of Sand, then who's really having some sort of issues out there now. But there we go. Then Ballet then coming round the bus stop chicane to the checkered flag. We'll finish. My goodness me, that car is very, very shaky. Right then, so there we are. Then as Liam then will cross the line in P15. Potentially, Real Ashton could get himself the first points of the season then for the Red Bull driver. Then where is he then as we come out of the bus stop chicane? Then is he going to be within the range then of Liam? As we know, he's 1 second off. Then unfortunately, didn't look he was pushing in on that final lap. Then he could have got himself within the in that points paying position. Then when he's picked up another penalty, then crossing the line. Then P17. Sand then, as Balance left the session anyway, but Sand then is P18, then Rocket Lee and Vintage will cross the line, P19 and 20 respectively then. But everybody in this race, I should say, then fantastic feat from them. Even if the race wasn't going your way, then got to the checkered flag. Then everybody in this race finished the Grand Prix. Happy for P3, says Jim as well. Then bad start on the softs, says Mark as well. Then good stuff indeed. Good day for McLaren as well. And yes, of course, Astrodron then getting some good points from McLaren as well. Then yes, says Ballant as well. Then in the Mercedes tonight as well. Then good stuff indeed. There is the top 3 then on the podium. Then Luke in the kick sour. Then Dan in the Alpine. Then Gina then in the McLaren. Then are your top 3 then a fantastic bronze Grand Prix. That was absolutely brilliant then. But yes, fantastic stuff. Indeed, my strategy is bad. Then says Ballot. Then Dan has joined the party. We'll get through the classification quickly first, as we get ourselves off the podium then and celebrate the Belgian Grand Prix then for the top three as well. Then, what a race that was. To be fair, my voice is going already. Then after literally 22 laps of non-stop action as well. Then, but well done indeed. Then from Luke as well. Sorry, from Eben as well. Said well done, Luke. GG as well. Then Luke then claims the victory here in Spa. Sorry, Dan in P2, then Jinner P3, then Dynamo Dan P4, Astrodron in P5, Styles P6, Smithy in P7, sorry, Corey then dropping down with that 3-second barrier, then down to P8, then Mr. Elite P9, then Mushroom in P10, then Dukanko P11, Ginger Rage and Slayer, then the Racing Bulls, then P12 and 13, Liam in P14, then Real Ashton in P15. I think actually we've got some mistakes there with the order then, because I think there was a couple of people who left early, but there we go. Then Ballot I think was P14, then and the rest of the order then dropping down behind him or after him as well. Fantastic stuff indeed. Then we'll go through some interviews then, shall we then, as we get ourselves ready for some lovely interviews then with the top of the order. Then we'll start off then, I'm not quite sure if he's joined us though, but we'll start off momentarily then with Luke. Then Luke, how are you after that race for yourself then? Was that fun for yourself, or were you just under pressure, let's just put it that way, all the way through?
I think the pressure from Dan made it fun. It wasn't quite like last week where like 10 laps in the end I'm thinking, oh god, I'm getting bored. That was good fun. A lot of pressure from Dan there. That was more like it for bronze. Very close at the top. But yeah, still a really really fun race.
And like I said, you look like, especially in both stints, to be fair, you look like you were both of you sort of working together then in that final stint, especially, were you just working with Dan to try and eke the gap out on the rest of the grid?
I think there's a little bit of there. I think Dan was quite enjoying being in my DRS every lap because I was running solo wing. He had to really push to get past me. But yeah, definitely a threat at the start. But I knew that our hards would outlast his mediums. So a little bit of worrying sort of as I came out of the pits. But after that, it was just sort of settling into a rhythm on the new tyre and just enjoying it really.
Fantastic stuff then. And of course, that last lap battle then. Dan got past you then in sector 2. We didn't see it on stream then because of course me being a professional has missed it. But what happened there in sector 2 then? Because you lost the lead, but you gained it back so quickly in sector 3.
Yeah, so I was, as I'm sure my contemporaries have worked out by now, running literally more or less no downforce. So my sector 2 was always a weak point, and I was quite slow through pull on. I wasn't using any battery, and Dan went around me outside into the chicane. A little bit worried because we made slight contact, nothing major, just lost the rear end. But I knew that I had the straight line speed, and then when I came out of sort of onto that last, not really straight, but that last sector, I could see he was flashing, and I knew I had so much battery that it was just simply a case of just putting it in overtake and then just blasting down the straight really.
Fantastic stuff. You got another race win under your belt then, and congratulations then for Luke then, today's champion then, of course, then in Belgium as well. Then brilliant stuff indeed then, and potentially a championship on the cards as well. Then I might have alluded to that. Then it's coming. Maybe it is. We'll have to wait and see. But well done indeed then, Luke, tonight then. We'll jump on then with Dan as well. Then Dan in P2 tonight. Then of course, as Luke's just alluded to as well. Then a long race then between yourselves, or quite a few then in the first stint, of course, but then between yourselves in the final stint there. What were your thoughts on that race as a whole?
Yeah, it was a good race. Enjoyed it. Much more eventful than last week for me. Yeah, I mean, congratulations to Luke. He, as he just alluded to, he ran a low downforce and it paid dividends for him today. I've sort of sat in P2 behind him for quite a lot of the time. I was pretty happy there, but I started noticing as we got towards the latter stages that he was getting a good run on me out of turn 1 and 2 and 3 up the hill, and even with a bit of bit of battery, he was managing to stay ahead. So I thought I needed to get ahead of him, which I did in the penultimate lap and just tried to stay ahead. Unfortunately, he got ahead of me, but then I managed to get past him. But by that time, the battery was completely empty, and yeah, taking candy from a baby in the end.
And did you think you had it on for the win potentially then as you went around the outside of him in sector 2 on that final lap, or did you know that potentially he was going to blast back through with the DRS, with the ERS and the low downforce?
Well, when I got past him, I thought we were on for a win, and then I refocused, looked down at the ERS, and it was 9%. So my excitement was very, very short-lived.
It was still a fantastic race indeed for myself watching as well, to be fair. So we'll hopefully see some more of that as well then in the future rounds, and only 6 rounds remaining now. But of course, again, this situation, and I don't want to put a downer on it, but of course, with Luke winning, then he extended his lead rather than going back in your favour. Then, do you think you can claw your way back and try and get yourself the top spot in the championship?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's pretty much a 2-horse race now. There's a few races left. We can get a DNF or anything can happen. I mean, look, the odds are in his favour, but I'm going to turn up every week and give it everything. So we'll see how we get on.
Brilliant stuff indeed. Then well done indeed. Then Dynamite. Too many Dans. Dan then tonight. Then in the Alpine. Then P2 tonight here in Belgium. Brilliant stuff from Dan as well. Then great stuff indeed. Ginna then we'll come on to Ginna then for the podium. Then once again. Then I think it might be your second podium of the season. I can't quite remember now. I've lost my memory. But after a bit of difficult times on track, then in the last couple of rounds or so, then how is that for yourself then to claim yourself a podium then for McLaren tonight?
It's a confidence boost, to be honest. It's like, we're making too many mistakes in the last few races. So it was on the start of here as well on soft. It was wrong strategy, definitely, because I was battling with them. The tyres just went. So I had to pit early and then hope for undercut to keep up to them. But yeah, they just had it, to be honest. There were no chance. So just kept trying to stay 3 seconds behind them just in case all happened.
And you got yourself through the pack then after pitting onto the medium compound tyres, and got yourself another podium then on the cards. Of course, you had a bit of work to do, and obviously to try and keep your place. And once you got through those who had their issues, then you got back into the podium places. Did you think were you in a bit of no man's land, or did you just think, "Oh, I'll keep my head now and just keep calm, then and get to the checker flag? I've got a podium guaranteed here," or did you try and push on, then try and catch up to the top two?
To be honest, I was pushing on trying to catch up to him. I did get it down to about 1.5, and then rear tyres were just going, so I decided not to push and just, keep it safe and just enjoy the podium because I knew I had the 3 second gap behind as well.
Well, congratulations indeed, because another podium on the cards then, and hopefully this is a turning point then for the season as well then, and you're back up there for the rest of the order then. Netherlands, of course, in a week's time then. Firstly, congratulations to our podium drivers then. We've got Dan, of course, Luke in P1, Dan in P2 then for Alpine, and of course Ginna then rounding off the podium in P3. Then congratulations to our top 3 tonight then as well for bronze season 9 round 10 then here in Belgium. Then in a week's time we're in the Netherlands then for bronze, taking you through the lovely Zandvoort as well then for some action there as well. Of course, gold, silver and bronze then will be taking on the same circuit then next week. There's no mystery Grand Prix, so gold will start us off then on Sunday night, so stay tuned to ALR. There's plenty more action coming up then, and we'll see you very soon.